Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Radha Madhava Radha Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada 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 Gauda Premanande Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Paribhradgacharya Stotra Satta Sri Samar His Divine Grace Shilabhai Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Iskand BBT Founder Charya's Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Samavata Bhakti Vrinda Ki Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Gauda Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru, to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurandritam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhuttale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Shyam Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakanvitam Shyam Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kansana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Nara Narayan Rishi, the Supremost Human Being, unto Mother Saraswati, the Goddess of Learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesha badreshu Nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavati utamashloke Bhaktir bhavati naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahmasamhitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Dhandyam Swasyayanam Mahat. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gauda Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Sarabhyai Namaha. Om Sarabhyai Namaha. Om Sarabhyai Namaha. Mukham karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripatamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Yat kripatamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Bhagavatam class, continuing from Canto number 2, Chapter 1, entitled The First Step in God Realization. And today we're reading text number 23. Sri Shuka Uvacha Vitasano Jita Swaso Jita Sango Jitendriyaha Stule Bhagavato Rupe Manaha Sandharayed Dhiya. Sri Shuka Uvacha Jita Sano Jita Swaso Jita Sango Jitendriyaha Stule Bhagavato Rupe Mana Sandharayed Dhiya. Sri Shuka Uvacha Jita Sano Jita Swaso Jita Sango Jitendriyaha Sule Bhagavato Rupe Mana Sandharayed Dhiya. Sri Shuka Uvacha Jita Sano Jita Swaso Jita Sango Jitendriya Stule Bhagavato Rupe Mana Sandharayad Dhiya. Sri Shuka Uvacha Jita Sano Jita Swaso Jita Sango Jitendriya Stule Bhagavato Rupe Sri Shuka Uvacha Jita Sano Jita Swaso Jita Sango Jitendriya Sule Bhagavato Rupe
Sri Shuka Uvacha
Sri Shuka Uvacha
Jita Sano Jita Swaso
Jita Sano Jita Swaso
Jita Sango Jitendriya
Jita Sango Jitendriya
Sule Bhagavato Rupe
Sule Bhagavato Rupe
Mana Sandarayadhiya
Marasandhanayadhiya. Sri Shuka Uvacha
Sri Shuka Uvacha
Shukadeva Goswami said
Sukadeva Goswami said
Jita Asanaha
Jita Asanaha
controlled sitting posture
controlled sitting posture
Jita Swasaha
Jita Swasaha
controlled breathing process
controlled breathing process
Jita Sangaha
Jita Sangha
controlled association
controlled association
Jita Indriyaha
Jita Indriya
controlled senses
controlled senses
Stule
Sule
in the gross matter
the gross matter
Bhagavataha
Bhagavataha
unto the personality of Godhead
unto the personality of
Rupe
Rupe
in the feature of
the feature of
Manaha
Manaha
the mind
the mind
Sandharayat
Sandharayat
must apply
must apply
Dhiya
Viya
by intelligence.
by intelligence.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki.
Jai.
Shukadeva Goswami answered, one should control the sitting posture, sitting up straight in Bhagavatam class, regulate the breathing process by the yogic pranayama, and thus control the mind and senses, and with intelligence apply the mind to the gross potencies of the Lord, called the Virat Rupa. Kindly repeat after me. Shukadeva Goswami answered,
Sukadeva Goswami answered,
one should control
one should control
the sitting posture,
the sitting posture,
regulate the breathing process
regulate the breathing process
by the yogic pranayama,
by the yogic pranayama,
and thus control the mind and senses,
and thus control the mind and senses,
and with intelligence
and with intelligence
apply the mind
apply the mind
to the gross potencies
to the gross potencies
of the Lord,
of the Lord,
called the Virat Rupa.
called the Virat Rupa.
Purport. The materially absorbed mind of the conditioned soul does not allow him to transcend the limit of the bodily conception of self, and thus the yoga system for meditation, controlling the sitting posture and breathing process and fixing the mind upon the Supreme, is prescribed in order to mold the character of the gross materialists, to mold the character of the gross materialists. Unless such materialists are able to cleanse the materially absorbed mind, it is impossible for them to concentrate upon thoughts of transcendence. And to do so, one may fix one's mind on the gross material or external feature of the Lord. The different parts of the gigantic form of the Lord are described in the following verses. The materialistic men are very anxious to have some mystic powers as a result of such a controlling process. But the real purpose of yogic regulations is to eradicate the accumulated dirty things of lust, anger, avarice, and all such material contaminations. If the mystic yogi is diverted from the accompanying feats of mystic control, then his mission of yogic success is a failure. Because the ultimate aim is God realization. He is therefore recommended to fix his gross materialistic mind by a different conception and thus realize the potency of the Lord. As soon as the potencies are understood to be instrumental manifestations of the transcendence, one automatically advances to the next step, and gradually the stage of full realization becomes possible for him. Translation again. Shukadeva Goswami answered, one should control the sitting posture, regulate the breathing process by the yogic pranayama, and thus control the mind and the senses, and with intelligence apply the mind to the gross potencies of the Lord, called the Virat Rupa. So again, reference is being made to the dirty things within the heart. This verse, this series of verses, as mentioned by Srila Prabhupada, are giving directions for those who are still too materially affected or too materially covered, those who are too absorbed with their material mind. Such persons are recommended to meditate on the external and material manifestation of the Lord in the material world. We were talking just yesterday, the day before, how one cannot become but amazed at the at this material creation, the wonders of the material creation, even great scientists become baffled and sometimes will express how they are feeling very, very tiny and very insignificant, you know. The small example is given of what we used to study when I was younger regarding the atom. The atom was made at that time of only three things: a neutron, proton, and electron. Hey, very good. Yeah, but now the scientists have discovered that the simplest, the most simple of all atoms is extremely complicated, more complicated than the most developed city, you know, in the world. And we know how cities are so entangling and so detailed, all the streets and the lights and the traffic and the houses and the people and the this and the that. So it's like a simple atom, and we're full of it. The whole world is filled with, is made up of these atoms. And they discovered, the scientists over the years are discovering so many different things, which is natural, of course, because the whole cosmic manifestation is but, as Krishna nicely explains also in the Bhagavad Gita, is but a spark of my splendor. It's but a spark of my splendor. It's just a little something. So we are, even to this day, it is said that never before in the history of mankind have we had, in the last century and up to now, the number of scientists that are there and the abilities, the scientific tools, and the telescopes, for example, different mechanical means by which we can study the universe. And still, they have this theory of the black hole. You've heard you know what the black hole is? What is the black hole? The black hole, according to what is the theory of the scientists and the theory of the Vedantists regarding black? We also have a theory of the black hole.
According to Vedantists, black hole is like a hub of the whole universe.
For the Vedantists, the black hole is
above the whole universe.
Above?
Hub of the whole universe. Chakra.
Hub of the
whole universe.
Of the whole universe.
Where it explains that where this Bhagavatam is recited by the Sukadeva Goswami, that is the actual place where.
You're talking about Naimisharanya. I'm talking about black hole.
That is called.
That's called black hole. Okay, I never heard that one. Anyway, according to scientists, the whole universe, all the planets, you know, we're sitting here, you know, very steady, but actually we're moving very fast. You know, just like we're sitting in an airplane, we don't feel it, but we're going like, you know, 900 kilometers an hour, whatever it may be. So the whole universe is moving, and they have this theory that we all seem to be going in some black hole, but they don't know what the black hole is. We know what the black hole is. Yeah. We know that our Lord Brahma has recently celebrated his 50th anniversary. They must have prepared a nice big cake for him. You know. So our Lord Brahma, according to astrology and calculation, is just a little over 50 years of age. And what does that mean? It means that actually we know that when Mahavishnu exhales, that's when all the universes come out from his breathing and then from the pores of his body. And that is the creation takes place, you know. And then when he inhales, the planets start coming back. So now, after the age of 50, the planets are coming back. The big black hole is going back actually to Mahavishnu. Yeah. There are so many unknown things about the material world. So this is the point being made here actually by Shukadeva Goswami. Those who are still too materialistic in their thought process, they are recommended to study the universe, to meditate on the universe, and in this way to begin to gain an appreciation of the material energy of the material world. Because material energy is working in ways that are inconceivable, isn't it? And this point is being made here, that by such meditation, by developing such kind of appreciation for the creation, one will gradually be able to, it's a kind of preparation to one day be able to appreciate the Creator. We appreciate first the energy or the power, and then one day we will begin to understand that there is a source of that energy. We will begin to question, what is the source of this power? What is the source of this energy? And of course, that will be explained, has already been mentioned. One who thus becomes fortunate, then he will be introduced to the proper understanding that there is indeed a source to that energy, inasmuch as the creation is extraordinary and very attractive. Then the source, that means the creator of that energy, means ultimately Krishna, is also all attractive. So we should not misunderstand here that the Bhagavatam is encouraging us to just do that. It's simply explaining that for those who are still grossly materialistic, then they can be encouraged to study nature, to study this material world, and as they do this, they will come to understand how wonderful is this material creation. Yeah. And this is how Prabhupada concludes here. Such a person who is still materially, whose mind is still materially absorbed, is therefore recommended to fix his gross materialistic mind by a different conception, means realize the potency of the Lord. And as soon as the potencies are understood to be instrumental manifestations of the transcendence, this is nicely explained here, one automatically advances to the next step. So actually this is interesting because in Krishna consciousness sometimes we want to force ourselves, hey, I want to be a pure devotee now. I have to wait. Or Prabhupada says, just like, newly married, newlywed, I want to have a baby today. Sorry, it doesn't work like that. Everything has its time, and of course it is also dependent on how, if we take up or follow, if we follow the recommended process. And for the vast majority of conditioned souls, there is a very clearly outline and defined process given by our acharyas, and which is, we were mentioning that yesterday actually, of sadhana. If we simply nicely apply the process of sadhana, then automatically, one time a devotee was asking Srila Prabhupada, because that became a very major issue, even during Prabhupada's physical presence with us. Prabhupada, what about, this Siddha Pranali, what about our Swarup Siddhi? Because devotees started to come to India, they started to come to Vrindavan, wow. They started to hear about Siddha Pranali and all these things, and actually some devotees were allured to that, and then Prabhupada replied that actually if you simply follow the process, automatically these things will become known, these things will become revealed, because Krishna is within the heart and He's the one who gives knowledge, forgetfulness, and remembrance. Sarvasya chaham ridi sanivisto matasmitir jnanam apohanam cha. Yes. So this very important point, we should not artificially, prematurely, artificially come to, want to come to platforms without giving the necessary time. And we have been assured by Srila Prabhupada, because another question that is there sometimes by devotees, whether Srila Prabhupada has given us everything, because that was another controversial point, which some people unfortunately took advantage by informing our devotees, your Guru Maharaj, he had very short time, he couldn't tell you everything. Your Guru Maharaj stayed only for a short time, and during that time he did wonderful things, but he could not reveal everything to you. So here I am. So Prabhupada explained that actually he has given everything in both Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and all the wonderful explanations and instructions that he has given, and it is simply a question of applying the process recommended by our acharyas, our Vaishnava acharyas, and in a natural way, in the same way that when we plant a seed, if we just follow the process of pouring water on the seed, of caring for that seed, protecting that plant as it grows, then one fine day that that plant will give flowers, isn't it? So this point is nicely being made here at the end, that by taking up the process of studying this cosmic manifestation, slowly, gradually, this prepares one to automatically, is how Prabhupada is mentioning here, that yes, one automatically advances to the next step, and gradually the stage to full realization becomes possible for him. We do this actually every day. It's like, we cannot do everything at the same time, but when we do things properly, then everything gradually we come to know naturally, automatically, okay, what is the next thing to be done? It's like, after Tulsi Puja, after chanting the prayers, we have Bhagavatam class. So, things kind of like the table comes, the book comes, this comes, things fall in, we know. When we begin Mangal Arati, we don't think about these things. But so like there's a natural sequence of events, so to speak. And so the same will happen, the same is meant to happen in terms of spiritual development, in terms of transcendental realization, like that. Today happens to be also let's see, where are we? Mahesh Pandit disappearance. Yes, there's a verse from the Adi Leela that is making reference, I'm sure there's more than one, from the Adi Leela 11:32. He who was previously a very munificent a coward boy has now appeared as Mahesh Pandit. In ecstatic love, he dances like a madman, as though intoxicated to the beat of a kettle drum. So just a few lines here describing this great devotee associate of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. According to the Gora Ganodesha Dipika, Mahesh Pandit was formerly Mahabahusaka in Krishna Lila. He was a companion of Nityananda Prabhu and was present at the Danda Mahotsava held at Panihati. In Bhakti Ratnakar Taranga 9, it is stated that when Narottam Das Thakur came to visit Kardaha, he had darshan of the lotus feet of Mahesh Pandit. Vrindavan Das Thakur has described him as a Param Mahanta, due to the fact that he was very dear to Nityananda Prabhu. And the last reference here, Mahesh Pandit's original Sripat at Sutsagar, merged into the bed of the Ganges. But his worshipable deities of Sri Nitai Gauranga, as well as his samadhi, were moved to Palpara. There is a railway station there between Simrali and Chagdaha stations on the Shelda Krishnanagar line, not too far from here. His disappearance date is on the 13th day of the bright fortnight in the month of Posa, which is today. And let's see, just very quickly here, it is also, got it. It is also the disappearance of Udarana Datta Thakur, and he is described here as the best of the Bhagavatas who serve Nityananda's lotus feet in every possible way. And the cowherd named Subahu became Udaran. Udarana Datta Thakur is one of the 12 Gopals. In order to assist Nityananda in his incarnation, he took birth in the town of Saptagram in the year 1481 AD. Saptagram is in Hooghly district. You go to Hooghly district quite often. So many devotees are there. Near the Trishbiga railway station. Trishbiga. What does Trishbiga means? It means Trishbiga, 30 bigas. Some Leela is there, what? Trishbiga. A Trishbiga railway station. That's, yeah. His parents were named Srikar and Bhadravati, and they belonged to the gold merchant class. Any caste in which a Vaishnava appears is to be considered holy. The earth itself is blessed by the appearance of a Vaishnava. And his, I don't know why it's written like this, or his or her mother has achieved the perfection of motherhood. Okay. Any Vaishnava, whether it's he or she. Yeah, okay, got it. Yes. Nityananda remained a few days in Kardaha and then went on to Saptagram with his troop of associates. Yeah. They stayed at the home of the fortunate Udarana Datta on the banks of the Triveni. Completely surrendered to the feet of Nityananda Prabhu, Udarana Datta worshipped him without any false pretense. The entire caste of gold merchants was purified by the presence of Udarana Datta in its midst. Of this there can be no doubt. Yeah. And as one of the Nityananda's closest confidants, Udaran Datta Thakur is called Parama Patita Pavana. Parama Patita Pavana, the deliverer of the most fallen amongst the most fallen. We have some hope. We have some hope, yeah. From a superficial point of view, Udaran Datta worked as the manager of a big zamindar, Nairaj of Naihati, about 1.5 miles north of Katwa. Yeah. Though he possessed vast fortune, Udaran Datta renounced all sense gratifications, dedicating his sense activities to the service of Nityananda Prabhu. There's quite a few things about him actually, but we don't have so much time. Yes. Okay, one last small bit here. Srinivas Datta Thakur was Udaran Datta's only son. Srinivas Datta Thakur was Udaran Datta's only son. Their descendants have spread into many branches and today live in Calcutta, Hooghly, and many other places. Those who have taken birth in this family are doubtlessly very fortunate individuals. We pray that they abandon the superficial, illusory family connection and establish their transcendental relation with him. And Prabhupada writes actually, interesting, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. When we returned from America in 1967, Prabhupada had gone to America, then he came back due to illness. The executive committee members of this temple invited us to visit it. And thus we had the opportunity to visit this temple with some American students. Formerly in our childhood, we visited this temple with our parents because all the members of the Suvarna Vanik community enthusiastically take interest in this temple of Udaran Datta Thakur. Interesting. Yeah. In the Bengali year 1283, which corresponds to 1896, a a Babaji named Nitai Das arranged for a donation of 12 bighas of land to this temple. The 12 bighas, that's a lot of. Wow. The management of the temple later deteriorated, but then in 1899, through the cooperation of the famous Balaram Mullik of Hooghly, who was an assistant magistrate and many rich Suvarna Vanik, gold merchant, community members, the management of the temple improved greatly. Not more than 50 years ago, one of the family members of Udaran Datta Thakur, named Jaga Mohana Datta, established a wooden murti, statue of Udaran Datta Thakur in the temple. But that murti is no longer there. At present, a picture of Udaran Datta Thakur is worshipped. It is understood, however, that the wooden murti of Udaran Thakur was taken away by Sri Madan Mohan Datta and is now being worshipped with a Shaligram Shila by Srinath Das Datta. Yeah, you have to find this easy for. Yeah. Okay. Jai Sri Udaran Datta Thakur ki. Jai Sri Mahesh Pandit Prabhu ki. Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments? Yes.
Ashtanga Yogi, he concentrated the form of yogis.
What is that?
Concentrate the form of the.
One is recommended to concentrate on the form of. Yogis are recommended to concentrate on the what is called Viratrupa. Material cosmic manifestation is described as the Viratrupa of the Lord. So yeah. So.
But yogi generally they concentrate the form of the Lord.
That's a later stage. That's yeah, yogis. Actually, this is especially for those who are. It mentions here those who are on the gross mental platform, and generally that is Gyanis actually, but also some yogis will meditate on who may not know about the personal or the localized aspect of the Lord. But your point is correct. Generally, yogis are come to that point of meditating on the localized feature of the Lord within the heart.
So they also called yogis who.
There are yogis who don't know about the localized aspect of the Lord, and for anyone who is still on the mental platform, on the gross materialistic platform, and he may be a yogi as well, is recommended to meditate on the cosmic manifestation.
For them also same they will have to do pranayama.
Yeah. These are also preliminary processes in terms of that's also referred to by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, right? The sitting posture, proper place to be sitting on the deer skin, and then sitting with erect body, and then practicing breathing. These are all mechanical processes by which one will be in a more fixed position. One's mind will become more peaceful, and It's just like when we attend Bhagavatam class, we should be attentive, we should be sitting properly, etc. like that. So that's more advanced, of course. These are all different bodily exercises or ways by which the body can be more receptive to appreciating, the cosmic manifestation like that. Yeah. Yes.
Yes, Guru. Guru, you are telling about Siddha Pranali.
Siddha Pranali. You have some interest in Siddha Pranali? Well, we should have interest, of course. We all, because, anyway, your question.
The question is that some devotees ask that, okay, how long when we follow the process, that given mystery process?
When is this going to happen?
Yeah, when is this going to happen? Is it after the years or is it the sincerity or something? What exactly it is? Or in this lifetime will happen or not?
So 2 questions. When it will happen, will it happen? Well, if we follow the process, it is described in the Shastra, it is explained by the Acharyas. So do we believe or not believe the Acharyas? So it's a question of Shraddha, of accepting the authorities of the Shastra. And so yes, there are so many descriptions as well. So that should not be a question, will it happen? The question can be there, as you are asking now, when it will happen. So that similar question was raised and put to Srila Prabhupada many years ago, probably more than once as well. When do we become Krishna conscious? I mean, when do we become fully Krishna conscious? Now, we're sitting in the Bhagavatam class, every morning. So, we could be doing, the majority of the whole material world is people are doing something else and not attending Bhagavatam class, right? Because they don't know about Krishna, they don't believe Krishna. So Prabhupada was giving a reply that which all of you have heard as well. How soon can one become Krishna conscious? Which means, how soon can one actually attain this perfectional stage of developing or knowing one's eternal identity? Siddha Pranali means knowing our eternal form, our eternal spiritual form, and our eternal spiritual service based on that form in the spiritual world. So Prabhupada said, it can happen in 1 minute. It can happen in 1 minute. According to one's surrender, so the intensity of our determination, the intensity of our surrender, the intensity of our desire, the intensity of our service will determine how soon we will actually attain that full level of liberation from these modes of material nature. Because as long as we are connected with the modes of material nature, forget about Siddha Pranali, isn't it? Forget about knowing one's spiritual identity. So therefore, we take up the process, the more we understand how gradually, so we can see actually on the, let's say on the more gross level, before we all came to Krishna consciousness, we were doing all kinds of nonsense. Most of us were doing different activities that we don't do now, isn't it? Like drinking tea, drinking coffee, or so many other things. So we've made some progress because we're not doing these things that are actually sinful, and we are making that endeavor to rise above these modes of material nature, isn't it? Before we had no knowledge of Krishna, unless one is born in a family of Vaishnavas, he doesn't really know about Krishna, especially for people outside of India. So we've made, we can observe, we can see, to some extent we are making progress. And so the similar type of progress that we are making will also be made and will one day be noticed by ourselves and understood and realized simply by continuing the process, remaining patient in performing the activities that are recommended in the Shastra. And knowing and understanding, this is also explained by Prabhupada, a practicing devotee who's aware of the whole process, he just very patiently and diligently, carries out his duties in the material world, patiently waiting for that moment when Krishna will arrange for him to leave this material world, and continues to develop this mood of surrender. And as was nicely mentioned also in the last few verses, this mood of surrender or devotional attitude, Prabhupada, right? He makes reference to the devotional attitude or devotional service that we, service attitude that we see that sometimes in devotees. Not all the time. But we see that in some special, they have a very natural, spontaneous kind of service attitude. And it's not artificial also. Sometimes people, put on a bit of a show, but that service attitude needs to manifest, needs to come in a natural and spontaneous way. And that's why in the Bhagavatam, Krishna of course explains, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. Not only are we meant to engage in devotional activities, but there needs to be a quality to that devotional service, isn't it? Yeah. And we are given every day opportunities to improve, isn't it, the quality of our service? Because spiritual life is all about service. Bhakti is all about devotional service. But it's all about the quality of that devotional service. By not being forgetful of doing different things, by not putting the picture upside down on the altar, as it happened during Prabhupada's time as well, things like that, to be conscientious, to be attentive, etc. Yeah. So when it will happen depends on us, and of course, ultimately depends on Krishna as well, because he's the one who awards us this transcendental knowledge and realization. Yeah. I believe we have to close the book. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki. Welcome to 2022. Haribol. Happy Krishna Conscious New Year. Yeah.